All right. Good morning, salam to everyone. I hope everyone can hear me and see me clearly. It is Monday, January 4th, and this is the first session of many self-healing circles. So whether you're tuning in live or whether you catch me on the recording, just know that give yourself that time and space wherever you are. Just the session will be about 15 minutes of me sharing some insights with you. And then for the balance of the 15 minutes, I will open up the space for you to ask me any questions that you may have. So I'm just making sure my technology is set up here so that I can see questions as they come in. So again, welcome. And my full name is Ummul Kiram. And if you want to learn a little bit about me, there is a chai time talk that is on the group that feel free to listen to that, and that will give you a little bit of background about the work that I do. But I'm sure we'll get to know each other over the next few months. So in today's circle, as we get started, I just want to invite you to first just even come into your body, because I'm sure each of you are really busy. There's so much going on in all our lives right now, especially because right now I know that a lot of all our children are home with us, and everyone's virtual schooling, so it can get very busy. So what's really important is to first come into our own bodies and just kind of be present now, because your mind, I'm sure, is thinking about all the things that are going on. So just taking a nice full breath in through your nose and breathing out through your mouth as if you're fogging a mirror. Try that again. Breathe in through your nose and breathe out as if you're fogging a mirror. And one more time, breathe in through your nose. Breathe out as if you're fogging a mirror. And now we can get started. So first question that I want to answer, that I know that a lot of people in the past have asked me when I do these circles or when I'm working with them, even one-on-one, is what is self-healing? And what does that even mean? And why is that even relevant, right? If we're going to do this work together, I'm sure you're curious. So I know a lot of you sort of can relate to physical healing. So for example, if we fall down and we get hurt, and then there's a healing process. The body knows what to do and it naturally heals itself, yes? Other examples might be, for some people, it's more serious. There are diseases that people get. And, through the diseases, they need some support. But at the end of the day, it's still the body doing its work to help you heal. From physical symptoms, whatever it is, whether it is people have high blood pressure or people have, some people will have serious diseases like cancer and so forth. So those are areas where we need sort of physical healing. But I would say that there is also, beyond physical healing, there is mental healing and emotional healing or energetic healing that we also need to be aware of. And that's what sort of completes the self-healing process. Okay, so you might be wondering, how does that then relate to the topic of the month? This month, we're going to be working on how to heal from judgment, from our community, from our family members, our husband, whoever it is around us in our external world, how to heal from that judgment, so that we are not thrown off and so that we're not feeling so overwhelmed, or otherwise we start feeling bad about ourselves. And that's the work we're going to do this month together, is how does that happen? So let me give you an example, and feel free, even when you're listening to this later outside this discussion today to write in the comments if you can relate to some of the things that I'm about to share. I'm going to give you some examples of how it can impact you. So let's say you're in a grocery store, and I think a lot of mothers can relate to this. If we've had younger children, right now we don't go to grocery stores a lot, and we're being more safe. But in the past, when you've gone to a grocery store with your children, and the child is having whatever emotions they're having, and then they start yelling, they start screaming, and have you noticed how that makes you feel? Have you noticed that sometimes you kind of get looks from people in the grocery store and they just kind of stare at you? And in that moment, what you're probably feeling is judged. Has anyone ever felt that? I know that I'm not the only mother who's felt that. It's part of life. We're going to be outside, and there are times it could be at a social gathering, you could be in a community event, and your child is communicating. They're yelling, they're screaming, and you notice that everyone starts looking at you, and there's sort of like a look that you receive where you're feeling judged. Okay, so if you think back to those experiences, when you receive those looks, what's happening is you're feeling judged, whether you realize it or not. When we feel judged, internally, we start feeling shameful or we start feeling guilty. So I want you to just think about that. Has that ever happened to you? Have you ever felt when you feel judged, does shame or guilt show up in your heart? That's an example of emotions that can show up. Now, you're busy, you're at the grocery store, you need to get your groceries done. So you don't have time to really heal from those feelings that showed up. So you're going to do your best, finish your groceries, take your child, and you go home. And your day continues because it's so busy. We always have so much going on as mothers. Now, that emotion of shame and guilt that you felt in the grocery store, that is still in your heart, and the body keeps a track of it. So it's being stored in your body now, okay? It hasn't gone anywhere because we haven't done anything to release it. That's part of that healing that happens every day. So now what happens is, imagine that's just one example of one situation. Let's say you are home, you have your in-laws or your parents, family, and your child is throwing a tantrum because they don't want to eat what you've cooked or whatever is going on. All of a sudden, sometimes, I know this has happened to me, and I know that I heard that in my chai time chat with Sana as well, that sometimes we feel judged. Someone might look at our child's behavior and tell us that, oh my God, how is it that you're not able to control your child? You're not a good mother. You're not doing a good job, clearly. You haven't taught your kids enough. I don't know if you've ever heard that or if you can relate to that or some version of that. Okay? And if that has happened to you, I just want you to know, first of all, that you're not alone. It's quite often that people end up judging the other person. Okay, it's just how life goes. But what's important to recognize is that that's an external, something from the outside world is telling us that you're not a good mother, or you have not done a good job teaching your children. Now, in that moment, again, what might you feel? You might feel, again, shame, or you might feel guilt, and you might start thinking, oh my God, I'm truly not a good mother, or I'm failing at this. I'm not doing a good job with my children, maybe. I'm not sure, but you let me know in comments what you feel when you get judged by others. And if you are not sure, then start paying attention when this happens anytime. When your kids are not listening and you're asking them to go to bed or asking them to do their homework and they're not listening and other people are watching you, or it might be your husband, if they say, oh my God, kids are not listening, you need to do something, notice how you feel. There's a sense of judgment that shows up, and chances are that you are feeling guilt or shame or any other emotion, frustrated maybe. All those emotions that you're feeling keep getting stored in your body. And it's as if your body has an invisible backpack I want you to imagine that we all have an invisible backpack where all these emotions of shame, of guilt, of maybe you feeling sad, frustrated, are all being packed inside. Now, this has been happening over years and years, not just when we became mothers, but even before then. So imagine then how heavy your invisible emotional backpack is. And we have to wonder, what might that do to me if I'm carrying this invisible weight with me all the time? I can tell you from my experience what that does is that over time you're going to be exhausted. And that's why a lot of moms feel overwhelmed and burnt out. I know from my own story, that's how burnout happens. It happens over time. Okay, when we don't have self-healing tools to take emotions like guilt, shame, frustration, anger, and we don't know how to process them. And in these healing sessions, we're going to work on that and we're going to learn that. It is a skill. I use mindfulness-based practices and coherence-based practices to help understand how do we work with these emotions, so that when you go on the self-healing journey, what's going to happen over time is you're going to start feeling a little more peaceful in your heart. You're going to start feeling more joy in your heart, and you're going to come back to feeling that I'm doing enough, that I am enough. That's what this healing journey is about. This self-healing journey is to guide you so that you can come back to feeling enough. No matter what anybody else is saying in the outside world, you can come back to feeling and knowing that you are enough. Okay, so in comments below, if you're listening, please let me know that when your child is not behaving or is being labeled as misbehaving, and they're yelling or they're screaming or they're hitting in public or in front of other people in the house, have you ever encountered judgment? And when you have encountered judgment, how does that make you feel? That's where we need to start, is with awareness. If we don't know how we feel, how can we heal? We have to feel it to heal it. Okay, we have to know that. So that's where the journey is going to start here. I'm going to always ask you these questions. I know that it's not easy because we haven't been asked this before. For me, culturally too, I was never asked that. How are you feeling? And tell me what emotion you're feeling. It's something I've had to learn. It can be learned. So in order to start the self-healing process, first we have to start paying attention and build awareness of how do I feel when my child misbehaves and someone is judging me for that. Or maybe it's even your own mind, your own self judging yourself when your child is not listening or not doing things the way you would like them to, whether it's school, whether it's whatever, bedtime, eating the food that you've cooked, whatever be it. So with that, today's session I'm going to close because I want to make sure that there's time for question and answers. And even if you're not catching this live, and if you have questions after you've listened to this, then please write them in the comments below, and then I'll come back and answer them on the next healing circle, or if it's a quick question, then I will also answer it back in the comments, okay? So as a summary then today, what is self-healing? Truly for me, self-healing, how I define it, is a journey to heal so that you can come back to your enoughness. It's a journey which is beyond just physical healing, but it also involves starting to pay attention to your emotions, starting to pay attention to what your mind is saying. We'll cover that in the next couple of months, your thoughts, so your mental conversations, starting to listen to those. And then once you are aware of what that is, then there is tools that I'm going to teach you as to what you can do to heal on a daily basis as these experiences happen in life. We can't control what the people are going to say around us. We can't control how life is going to move around us. But what we do have control through the self-healing process is how you feel inside every day. And that's the work of self-healing. So thank you for joining and listening. And for all of you who are live right now, please, in the comments, feel free to ask me any questions because I want to open it up. We have some time. I'm always going to stay on for about 15 minutes after the conversation and give you time to ask me questions, okay? So I see Amna Hussein. Oh my goodness, Amna, yes, it's been a long time. If you're still on, welcome and salams from Streetsville Library. Yeah, so you're right. Back in the day, I used to also do workshops at the Streetsville Library. I'm not sure how many children you have now, but I think back then you had just had your first. So it's been a while. It's nice to connect with you here on this page. But if you're on, I'm curious how your experience has been in motherhood so far, and if you've ever encountered judgment. And for all of those who are here listening live, let me know in comments. So I'm just going to wait for you to see if you have any questions, because I know I've received questions just from friends who I've shared that I'd be doing this with. So I'll give you some time. And some of the things that I'm curious about from you is, have you ever felt judged? Let's start there. For those of you who are alive, you just kind of yes or no. Have you ever been judged by anyone? And I know that I would say, so how does one deal with people questioning our parenting skills? So that again, I would come back and ask Aram, the first question is, when people are questioning our parenting skills, how do you feel? Do you feel judged? Would be my question to you. And if the answer is yes, that I do feel judged, then we have to then ask ourselves, when I'm feeling judged by someone, I have to recognize every day. Okay, so when people are questioning our parenting skills, I'm just looking at the comments below, we feel judged every day, right? And when we feel judged, have you noticed how that makes you feel in your heart? Do you at all feel guilt? Do you feel shame? Do you feel angry? Do you feel frustrated? Right? All those things might be things that you need to start paying attention to. Yes. So I see yes to all of those. So then the next step is to recognize that is on the outside. Someone's judging me on the outside. You get to choose whether you allow it inside. Does that make sense? You don't have to allow that judgment to come inside. We get to choose, and it's a skill that we're going to be practicing. It doesn't happen overnight, I have to say. It's a lifelong journey of practicing these skills that I'm going to be sharing session over session. That's why we need to kind of keep doing this and keep repeating it. But the first step in that is when someone judges you, remind yourself that I get to choose whether I let this judgment in or not. Second, once you've done that, I want you to notice how it even made you feel, because chances are you did feel guilt, shame, angry, frustrated. You need to acknowledge that and say to yourself that this made me feel this way. Okay, you have to name it first. And then again, you might take a deep breath, and you may take 3 deep breaths and remind yourself that I am enough. And I choose not to take these external voices inside me. At that point, you're working with your internal judge, because there's an external judge and internal judge. The reason you allow, like when someone outside is questioning your parenting skills, you have to start recognizing that I'm not going to take this in. I trust, coming back to your own sort of ways and trusting in yourself, and then working with your mind. So it's a scale again, it's a mindfulness-based scale as to how do I learn to work with this internal judge that is going to say, oh my God, you're not doing good. You're not a good mother. We'll build on that in the next few sessions. But for now, what I would really recommend is start paying attention. It all starts by first starting to pay attention as to how does it even make you feel when people are questioning your parenting skills. That's the skill we're going to practice this week. Paying attention to how it makes you feel. Okay? Because we got to build. If we try to do too much at one time, we're not going to learn a new skill. Notice it with babies. Have you noticed before they start walking, they don't come out of our womb just start walking. They just start moving, hands a little bit, then a little bit of arms. Every day they do a little bit. Over time, after a year, they start walking. Or after 6 months, 8 months, they start walking. Same with these skills. We do little baby steps every day. Okay, so I hope I answered your question. And Zinat is sharing that sleep and good nutrition and hydrating yourself also gets you into the right frame of mind to start healing. It's so true. Thank you for saying that, Zinat. So those are, again, things we can control, right? We can't control what others are going to say about us, but what you can control is what kind of food you're putting into your body, because if it's food that's giving you energy, that's nourishing you, that's going to make you feel good. That's going to give you energy. Drinking a lot of water, really, really important. It seems so simple, but sometimes when us mothers, we get so busy and we have so much going on all day, notice, do you drink water throughout the day? Do you remember to drink water throughout the day? Because hydration is the simplest thing we can do, but so important, because when you're not hydrated enough, your brain cannot work clearly. And when your brain doesn't work clearly, you're going to take in everything that everyone is saying. You're just going to allow it all in, and you're going to feel worse. Okay, so hydration, again, is very easy. And then sleep. If you don't have young children, I know for some of us who have little kids, we don't control our sleep because they might wake up 10 times in the night. But for those of us who have older children, really committing to going to bed at a time that is reasonable. And based on science and research, they say the sleep you get before midnight, so I know this might be hard for some of us because this was hard for me. Sleep that you get before midnight, from 10 o'clock to midnight, is very important. It helps in your healing process. Okay, so if you're going to bed after midnight, you're kind of missing out on that window. That is such an important window for healing in your body. That's when your healing mode of your body, called the parasympathetic mode, is activated, and that's when the body is restoring, renewing, replenishing. So if you're someone who goes to sleep after midnight, maybe just try bring it up to 11:30. Small baby step, and see how that supports you every day, little baby steps. Okay, so all of these things are part of your self-healing journey. And this week, I invite you all to make some time to start noticing how you feel when you're judged. And I'm reading the comments. Yeah, sometimes it feels very exhausting. I agree. The reason it is exhausting is because you have this invisible emotional backpack that you've been stuffing all these emotions into. We don't know it. We're not doing this on purpose. Nobody told us. So we're doing this. Emotions have been stuffed in there for so long, it gets heavy. And then we get exhausted and we get burnt out. Okay, and yes, it is easy to forget drinking water. I always have like a water cup with me everywhere I sit so that I just keep sipping water, okay? And Amna, thank you for pointing out going to bed early. Yes, it's hard sometimes, isn't it? Especially because I know, for some of us moms, our kids don't go to bed till, 9 o'clock, let's say. So then I know that you want your own time also, right? Before you go to bed, and you want to do some of your own things. So it's a bit of a trade-off, right? You have to choose. And I always say, at the end of the day, I'm guilty of this. It's been a long journey for me, Amna, to start going to bed. By now, I've come up to 10:30. Okay, I try and put myself to bed at 10:30. It's like the absolute latest for me now. But I used to be someone who used to stay up till like 2 at night. And then I would wake up in the next morning and be exhausted. And in the past, when I've done it, I burnt out. I had adrenal exhaustion. I don't know if anybody has ever had this, but if you see a naturopath, they can let you know if you're always feeling tired and if you're feeling like you get a boost of energy at night, those are some signs that either your circadian rhythm, your sleep rhythm is off, or sometimes for some women, their adrenal glands are exhausted, are burnt out. So just be mindful. This is all part of healing. Sleep is so easy in some ways. In some ways, if we can start slowly working with it, yet it can feel challenging too. So I hear you. I hear you. Momina, you're saying you go to bed at 9:30 and it's awesome and it's made a big difference as compared to when I was sleeping at midnight. I don't feel lethargic most of the time. That is amazing. Momina, I would love to know sort of what's helped you make this commitment to yourself, because that's a big change. Did that happen? Like, were you just able to do that change overnight, or did you slowly take some baby steps? I'm curious, how did you make that change? Because that's pretty inspiring to for someone who was sleeping at midnight and now is going to bed at 9:30. That's amazing. Amazing. I'm really celebrating you because that's, again, that commitment to your own healing, to your own well-being, right? So I would love for you to share how you did that, because I think that would be inspiring for other mothers. I know for me it has to be baby steps. Now, also a lot of the research that shows us that if we want to make change, start small. Because if we try and do too much at one time, what happens is people get overwhelmed and then they think like they're not doing good and then they just give up. Okay, so in this healing journey, as we embark on this healing journey, please remember that when you're making change, baby steps. Remember how our kids grew up? They didn't just start walking and talking after we gave birth to them. It was over time. Same with self-healing, over time. So Momina, for you, you said it was a sudden change when your husband came home from a foreign trip and he slept early. Amazing. Okay. So that really helps, right? Because there's someone else who's also doing the same routine as you. Your husband goes to bed early, so everyone's just going to bed at the same time. So that's a good suggestion, because for those of you who can do that as a family, it helps when everyone's in bed, because then there's no temptation or less temptation. And important that we turn off all our screens. Okay, I don't know how many of you look at screens before bedtime, but that can be very interruptive to your sleep. So I just want you to be aware of that. And maybe in the next session, we're almost running out of time, but we can do a whole session on sleep. There's so much I would love to share on sleep and how sleep hacks. How do you get the best sleep possible for yourself? Okay, so thank you, Momina, for sharing that. I think that is valuable. And for those of you whose husbands might not be going to sleep at the same time, I would say start small. You know, if you feel like you want some of your own time, then if you're going to bed at midnight, start slow. Maybe try 11:30 for a week, then 11 o'clock for the next week. Kind of build it up in baby steps. Amazing, Momina. And you're saying now he's back to 1 a.m., but you don't want to change. I love that. How long have you been doing that, Momina? Going to bed consistently for that time? I'm curious. And I'm curious because, you know, some of us, we just can change habits, and it takes like 30 days, it says. The research says 30 days to change a habit. Okay, and I find that fascinating because even in our culture, in Ramadan, we fast for 30 days. We come into a new routine for 30 days. Because there is also, we've known that through the wisdom for years and generations, but now science is also proving it, that it takes at least 30 days of repetition, generally speaking, to create a new habit. Okay. So, okay, Mamina, there you go. 5 months now, right? So that's key. It's repetition and consistency over time, because once you've gone beyond like 90 days, let's say, or even 120 days of doing a new habit, now that habit is in your subconscious. And once it's in your subconscious, it's much easier to keep going with the habit. So amazing job, Mamina. Celebrating you, and I hope that your journey inspires other moms to do the same, because without our sleep, it's really hard to pay attention to what's happening in the daytime in our world. And I just don't take care of my gut. I just go to bed. Yeah. Sometimes, it's not easy, I know, to prioritize ourselves first, but we're going to learn that together. That's why we're doing it in a community, and that's why I'm so grateful that Aram and her group is doing these events like these, because what we know is that as a community, we can go a lot further together versus trying to do something on your own. Do you agree? Have you noticed that? Why do we go to community gatherings? Why do we pray in a mosque together? Why do we like doing those things? Because when you gather as a community, you're going to go further. It's going to make it easier to create new habits. And right now, we are not able to do the things we used to before in person. So this becomes your virtual community where you can come and get support. And I hope that you do. And there was one more comment, sorry, that I missed before. I'm just trying to see. Lockdown. Lockdown has messed up our house discipline, especially with kids who have special needs. Absolutely. It's because we've now had to create new routines, right, with the lockdown. And especially children with special needs, they need a lot of structure. They need a lot of structure to feel safe. That's how their nervous system feels safe. There might be resistance, but it just means that we have to keep modeling that. If we keep modeling some kind of routine, then the kids are going to over time follow as well. Okay. So any other questions? It's 11 o'clock. If you have other questions, please leave them in the comments. Like I said, if we don't get to them today, I will be back again next Monday at 10:30 a.m. and we're going to continue this conversation. So what am I going to cover next week? I just want to leave you with this. Next week, I'm going to talk about the brain science behind why kids, and I'm talking like kids usually under 6 have these behaviors a lot, why kids under 6 tend to yell, scream, shout, hit when they get upset. Okay, I'm going to cover the science behind it. I really want you to understand the science, because once you understand the science, you're going to realize it's not your fault and that you are amazing. So join me next week if you're curious to learn about the brain science behind why children even behave that way. So thank you again. As we close, a reminder to each of you who's tuned in live that you are enough and you're doing enough. Okay? Please know and say that to yourself. I am enough. I'm doing enough. Because what I read in the comments here is a lot of you are saying that, yes, I feel judged every day. So imagine every time you're feeling judged, there's feelings, emotions that you keep putting into your invisible backpack, and then you're getting exhausted. We have to just come back to our enoughness slowly. And surely we'll do that. So I'm grateful for this community, for creating space for all of us to get together, to celebrate each other and to encourage each other. You're right, Sana. We all need encouragement, and I'm here. That's what I do when I host these circles, is I'm here to encourage you, and I'm also going to share a lot of science and a lot of sort of tools with you, okay? So Zinat's asking, what are some books that you can recommend for people dealing with beliefs? Okay, Zina, those are amazing books. Yeah, I would say Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton. In that, there is a chapter called Parents as Genetic Engineers for Their Children. I would recommend every mother read that. Please read that. Bruce Lipton. And if you don't have the book, just Google Bruce Lipton, Parents as Genetic Engineers. He has a lot of free YouTube videos that you can start by listening to. And that's a whole different topic about beliefs and how beliefs can affect how you feel about life, the lens you might be looking through life. We're going to go through that again over the next few months. Like I said, there's so much to cover, so much. And How to Break the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza is another amazing book. Thank you, Zina. I have that book myself. I use that book a lot when I'm working with my clients in my rehab work with them. And it's another amazing book. And if you've not heard of Dr. Joe Dispenza, again, find a YouTube video. There's a lot of great talks for free. And then Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins, another amazing coach, speaker. I love it, love it. Thank you everyone for sharing those resources. That is so helpful. And yes, Sana, you're so right. We need healing every day, okay? It's not a once in a while thing. You're so right. It's every day. But healing this week for everyone, it starts with awareness. Start paying attention. Okay, that is the first step in your self-healing journey. That's our mission this week. So let me know how it goes. If you have questions during the week, put them over here under the talk, and I'll see everyone next week, next Monday at 10:30 a.m. If you have questions, put them in the comments, and I will get back to you soon. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for everyone who's here live. And have an amazing rest of the week with the knowing that you're enough. Bye for now.